Picture this. It's the blistering summer of 1967. You walk onto a 20th Century Fox backlot and see heavily armed gorillas taking a smoke break and orangutans sipping iced tea through straws. Long before motion capture suits and green screens dominated Hollywood, Planet of the Apes was a triumph of raw, practical filmmaking. But how did the filmmakers actually bring this impossible world to the screen? How did they turn ordinary actors into a civilization of intelligent apes? That's exactly what we're going to uncover in this video. The concept of Planet of the Apes was already incredibly ambitious, but actually putting those apes on screen was an entirely different challenge. Because in 1967, there was no CGI, no motion capture, and certainly no digital character replacement that could simply transform an actor into a chimpanzee or gorilla. The ape had to be physically created on the actor's face, and the process was long, uncomfortable, and incredibly precise. The biggest challenge was creating an ape face that looked completely convincing without turning the actors into expressionless statues. And that's where John Chambers and his makeup team came in. Before the cameras could roll, the actors had to spend hours in the makeup chair, while the team carefully transformed their faces piece by piece. Instead of using one rigid mask, Chambers developed a system of lightweight foam latex prosthetics that could be individually fitted to the actor. The process began with the actor's face being prepared for the appliances. The makeup artists would carefully attach the prosthetic pieces around the forehead, cheeks, nose, and mouth, making sure every edge blended seamlessly into the actor's real skin. Once the pieces were in place, layers of makeup were applied over them to match the texture and color of real ape skin, while additional shading helped create the deeper wrinkles and facial contours. But the most important part was making sure the actor could still perform underneath it all. The appliances had to be flexible enough to move with the actor's expressions, allowing their eyes, mouth, and facial movements to remain visible. That's what prevented the characters from looking like people simply wearing rubber masks. And then came the hair. The ape's hair wasn't some cheap synthetic fur slapped onto a rubber mask. The wigs were made from real human hair, with individual strands hand-hooked into a lace base. Thousands of hairs in a single wig. Also, full-time wig makers working on the production just to keep all of these characters looking authentic. For the principal actors, this entire transformation could take 3 to 4 hours every shooting day. After the makeup, actors had to survive entirely on liquid diets, fed through long straws. And at the end of the day, the chemical solvents used to rip the adhesives off left their skin raw and burning. Interestingly, the heavy makeup created a bizarre psychological side effect on set. During lunch breaks, without any direction from the crew, the actors subconsciously segregated themselves. Gorillas ate with gorillas, and chimps with chimps. The immersion was absolute. So while it may look effortless on screen, every ape you see in Planet of the Apes represents hours of preparation before the director could even call action. But transforming the actors was only one part of the problem. The filmmakers also had to give these apes a world that actually felt like home. And for Ape City, they didn't simply dress up an existing street and call it a futuristic civilization. The production went to the 20th Century Fox Ranch in Malibu, where an enormous outdoor set was constructed specifically for the film. The area was cleared and transformed into an entire ape settlement, complete with buildings, streets, public spaces, an outdoor amphitheater, a stockade, and even a shoreline. The designers also deliberately made the city look primitive. Earlier versions of the story imagined a much more technologically advanced ape civilization.
Out of the jungle in panic. The helicopters had located a tribe of human beings, and the armored cars were driving them out of the jungle.
But that would have required far more expensive sets and props. The final film instead gave the apes a society that looked strangely ancient, with rough, stone-like architecture, unusual pathways, and enormous open spaces. And that actually made the world feel more believable, because the apes weren't supposed to be humans who had simply taken over a modern city. They had developed their own civilization. The physical architecture gives the chase real depth: stairs, platforms, walls, and narrow passages that the performers could actually run across and interact with. For a film made in 1967, that combination of practical architecture, real performers, and real landscapes was what sold the illusion. But if you think Ape City was the most difficult location in the movie, the filmmakers saved their biggest logistical nightmare for the very end. After escaping the apes and traveling deeper into the Forbidden Zone, Taylor and Nova eventually reach the coastline, and this is where the movie delivers one of the most unforgettable endings in cinema. But getting that scene onto film was almost as difficult as the scene itself. The production traveled to a remote stretch of California coastline between Malibu and Oxnard, where cliffs rose roughly 130 feet above the shore. The beach was so difficult to reach that the cast and crew couldn't simply drive their equipment down there. Cameras, equipment, horses, and even members of the cast and crew had to be lowered to the beach by helicopter. The location itself was doing most of the heavy lifting. The filmmakers used the real cliffs, rocks, sand, and ocean around Point Doom to create the Forbidden Zone coastline. And near the cave area, the production also built practical access structures, including a wooden bridge and other temporary paths, so the cast and crew could actually reach the difficult-to-access sections of the beach. There was even a cave sequence where the apes' archaeological discovery takes place. The production used the natural rock formations and constructed elements to create the impression of a much larger excavation site. In the story, once Taylor and Nova leave, Dr. Zaius orders the cave to be sealed with explosives, and we see the resulting blast in the distance as smoke and dust rise from the destroyed site. And for this, crew actually did a small blast in the cave, as you can see in the footage. So when you watch that final sequence, you're actually looking at several pieces of filmmaking coming together at once. All we're left with is Taylor standing at the end of the world, finally realizing where he really is. That's the real magic of Planet of the Apes. If you enjoyed these behind-the-scenes secrets, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. We're very close to 500 subscribers, and I'll see you in the next video.